Hey guys, Jason here, Samco Trad Bow. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about how much bow do you need to bow an arrow through a deer, to pass through a deer. How much bow is needed? And then why does it matter? And how do you change it if you don't quite meet the criteria? Well, the criteria is pretty easy. Under certain circumstances, sorry, I'm going to be sweating a little bit, and I just swallowed a gnat, but it's hot. It's 97 with 113 degree heat index out here today. It is brutal hot. But so what do we need? What do you need to be able to pass through a deer? What is the requirement we're looking for? Realistically, from my own things that I have seen and people that I have talked to and stuff like that too. I mean, I watched Bella shoot through a 400 and something pound hog with a 26 pound compound and blow completely through it on a 20-yard shot. Blew completely right through that hog. So, you know, you got those kind of variables. You got people look at Fen Hayes, Clay Hayes' son, that killed that hog with something like whatever that was, a 22-pound longbow or something he was shooting, and he killed a hog with it. I mean, hogs are tougher than deer, way tougher than deer, way tougher than deer. And then you have, you look at that post Dick Robertson did earlier last year, I think it was, where he had a guest over there that was only shooting like a 20-something pound bow and ended up blowing completely through a deer out there too. So you don't need a lot of bow. You don't need a lot of bow. These laws that state 40-pound minimum, 45-pound minimums, they're outdated and antiquated because arrow technology has got so much better. You don't need to mess with that stuff, these heavyweight bows anymore. Now, there are advantages to it. There's a reason I don't shoot a 40-pound bow, and we'll talk about that. And there's a reason that I don't shoot a 45-pound bow, and that kind of stuff is there. But on the flip side, I can give you personal first-hand experiences why I no longer shoot a 79-pound bow. So we're going to cover that in a second. But the moral of the story is that your bow weight means nothing. Your bow weight means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, okay? When it comes to passing through an animal, your bow weight means nothing. With that said, there are advantages. The more weight you can shoot, the more you can get away with. Okay, the more you can get away with sloppy arrow flight, the more you can get away with different size heads and arrows that are not tuned as well. The more you can get away with bigger broadheads and bigger blood trails, bigger holes in animals and things like that. The more you can get away with better hits and penetration when you're hitting bone, possibly getting through shoulder blades, things like that kind of stuff. So all this does come into play, and it does matter. Now, the key thing to understand when it comes to penetrating and blowing through an animal and getting a pass through on an animal is that it is not the bow. It is 100% in the arrow, okay? We're going to take this arrow out right here. This arrow is what does everything for you. Bow weight is irrelevant, okay? Now, if you're going to shoot a lighter weight bow, you want to set this up for a lighter weight bow setup. If you're shooting a heavier weight bow, you can do whatever you want to with this and make it any way you want, and it's going to work perfectly. Okay, that choice is completely yours. But you see, the more weight you shoot, the more you can get away with. Now, the difference is a lightweight tuned bow will shoot, a lightweight bow with a good tuned and built correctly arrow will blow the doors off of a heavyweight bow with an arrow that is not correctly done. I know this from experience. See, when I started out heavyweight bow, when I started shooting 30 years ago, there was not a guy in the world that was shooting 45 pounds. Okay, if you were laughed at. Everybody was shooting 60-pound bows. And then I went from my first Martin Mamba, which was 55 pounds at my draw length, to my Brackenberry that was 62 pounds at my draw length. Then I went from there to a Robertson 67 pound at my draw length, to a Robertson 72 pound at my draw length, to a Robertson 79 pound recurve at my draw length. And so I've killed many animals with all these heavyweight bows, including that 79 pounder, which the only reason I stopped shooting it and went back was because that bow blew up on me right before a caribou hunt. Drew it back and was practicing at John's and was ready to take about the 60th shot of the day on this target he made of a caribou. And I drew it back and boom, it folded. The limbs just folded in on it, and it was done. So I ended up not taking it. But it's that kind of stuff that makes the difference there. But what I know is, I know from all the animals that I killed with those setups, shooting just a standard wood arrow with a 125 grain Magnus head on there, and those arrows being not tuned the best, not bad, but they worked. But I got way less pass-throughs with that 79-pound recurve than I do now with a 57-pound bow. I've been shooting 57 pounds for the last 10 years and with these type arrow setups, and I blow through animals way more now than I ever did with any of those faster, heavier recurves. And the reason for it is arrow technology has got better. This is the key to all of it, okay? This is how you are going to set up your setup. Now, you can still do this with wood arrows. These are not wood, these are carbon, okay? But you can make wood arrows today and set them up the right way too. If you are shooting 50 pounds and above, you're going to be fine just taking a wood arrow and slapping a 125 grain head on it, call it good, and run with it, and you're going to be just fine. There's going to be no problem with that. If you're going to start getting into the lower weight stuff, you're going to want to still be a little more critical of your setup on there. You're going to want to shoot the right broadheads. Down here in Georgia, deer are small down here, okay? So you want to shoot, big, wide broadheads and lightweight pound bows. You're going to get away with it down here just fine. Try doing that in northern Michigan or try doing that in Kansas or some of these corn belt type deer, and you might give you a problem. You may not get the pass-throughs that you thought you would because the arrow just is too much for the amount of weight coming out of the bow. But now you can set up your arrows differently. You can run a narrower broadhead. This is a 1.5 inch wide broadhead. If you were to put a 1 1/16 inch grizzly or 1 1/8 inch grizzly or tough head or something like that on here with a 3-to-1 ratio, you very well could blow these arrows through pretty much anything you wanted to. Arrow weight and setup matters too. Heavier is better, in my opinion. Arrow people that will argue that, and I'm not in the mood to debate it. That's your choice if you think so or not. That's gnat number 5. That's the 5th gnat that's been in there. It's only, one more and I got like the equivalent of protein from a Snickers bar. But the weight of the arrow matters, and the forward of center weight matters, even with wood arrows. Putting a heavier broadhead on there and getting that weight up forward definitely makes a difference. I'm a huge proponent of it. I have done everything from filling aluminum shafts, shooting wood arrows with just a 125 grain head on there, all the way to taking aluminum shafts and stuffing them full of rope all the way through to get the weight up. I've got articles in Traditional Bowhunter magazine 20 years ago where I was stuffing rope inside of shafts and using that to do it. Then I went to stuffing carbons with rope. Then I went to taking a steel bolt that was about that long and then wrapping it with one thing of duct tape, sticking it inside of here with epoxy and gluing it in behind my insert right here to get all that weight forward. Then they started coming out with these specialty adapters and broadhead adapters and the brass inserts, and all the technology they have now gave us these options we have. Take advantage of them. If you are going to shoot a lighter weight bow and you want to pass through more animals, then you want to put the effort into your arrow design, okay? The lighter your bow weight, the narrower and smaller the head is, the more weight you want in your shaft and the more you want up front, okay? You want to be a minimum of 10 grains per pound, preferably 11, 12 grains per pound of draw weight. So if you're shooting a 60-pound bow or a 40-pound bow, a 400 grain arrow would be 10 grains per pound, okay? You'd have a 400 grain arrow. If you're doing 11, it'd be 440, So, if you're doing 12, it'd be, 480. Now you're getting a little better, but heavier is better. I am a big fan of heavy arrows. I shoot 57 pounds, and I shoot a 715 grain arrow. Okay, I like that. I would not go any less. Now, when I was shooting that 79-pound bow, I was shooting a lot lighter arrows. My next setup immediately after that, when I got rid of that 79-pounder and I went to a longbow, John Tucker from Tactisaddle bought me my first longbow from Jim Reynolds. He bought it for me as a gift for helping him build his house, and he showed up with it, and I got it, and I shot it. And I decided I wanted to go heavier, so I actually built a set of 800 grain maple shafts that I started shooting out of that thing, and they were incredible. And the deer I would hit with that 63-pound longbow, that 63-pound longbow, that 600 or 840 grain or whatever it was maples, they would blow completely through those deer like they weren't even there. It was amazing. Weight of the arrow matters. Design of the arrow matters. Bow weight does not. Okay, if the laws are not in your favor, or if the laws are not strict in your state or whatever the case is, but don't think for a second that you can't grab a 35-pound bow and go out there and kill deer with it all day long. It is not hard to do. Okay, it is, you might, I got some gnats all over the lens on there. It might screw up, so if it's looking a little fuzzy, because we got gnats walking around on the lens. But do not be afraid of bow weight. Do not think you're underbowed. Do not let anybody on forums tell you you're underbowed. Don't let it even make you think that you're less than because you're not shooting enough. Okay, there are people, look at all the people that have shown up in the last 10 years with that need shoulder surgeries, rotor cuff surgeries, and stuff like that from shooting these heavyweight bows on a regular basis. There is no need to have to do that. Do not be afraid to go down in bow weight. Use your arrows to compensate for it. You will blow through animals like crazy. Even shoulder blades and things like that if you set the arrow up right. Now, you're going to have better chances of getting through shoulder blades, better chances of things going wrong on bad hits, better chances of a long quarter and away shot of making it all the way in from in front of the hip, all the way through into there and getting stuff done and making things happen. Better chances of exit holes on, when you do hit bone, better chances of a lot of things the more weight you add, which is why I still shoot 57 pounds. Okay, now how do you know when you need a more bow or less bow? Basically, you can just go less and leave it that way and be content with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me personally, I like to shoot a comfortable amount of bow weight. I don't believe, like we used to say, that shoot as much bow weight as you possibly can, because again, can lead to shoulder issues, can lead to a lot of stuff. I mean, again, there was a time I was shooting a 79-pound recurve all day long, every single day, without fail, and no problems to it whatsoever. I was in my 20s. Now I know better. I don't want to shoot that much weight. I don't need to. But this weight of 57 pounds, I can go outside and I can shoot 100 shots in a row and not have a problem and not get too wore out or too tired. That means that I'm still good. I can hold this bow for a minute and a half at full draw. If an animal comes in, I can draw this thing back. I can't really can it like I want with the tailgate, but I can draw this thing and I can sit here and I can hold this bow for a very long time until that deer decides what it's going to do, what's going to happen, if he's going to move. Wait, he's looking at me, he saw me draw. I can sit here and wait with him and wait with him and wait with him at full draw, and then he turns his head and boom, let it go. I can do all of that with this bow. That's my criteria for bow weight. Can I do the full practice sessions that I want to without it feeling like a hindrance or tiring me out? Check. Okay, that's important. Can I hunt with it and hold it and do what I need it to do without it being an issue for me where I have to let it down? Check, 2. Okay, third one, can I shoot it in the winter without it, me sitting there in a tree stand for hours on end and then me pick my bow up when a deer comes in? Do I have the power to still shoot it? Check. Now, that one there, it has a caveat to it. Doesn't matter what bow it is, as I get older, I realize that gets harder now to the point where when I'm in a tree stand and it's cold, I make a point every hour to pick my bow up, grab my bow, draw it, grab my bow, draw it, grab it, let it down a little, do this with it a little bit right here, push in with my shoulder, grab it here, pull it, and I do this stuff with it because it's important for me to be able to know that I can, and I hang it back up. An hour goes by, I'll do the same thing again. I'll grab it, I'll pull it down, I'm going to draw it, I'm going to work it like this a few times to make sure those muscles are good, because again, as I get older, 50 years old, almost 51 years old, it gets to a point where when you start drawing that, when I'm sitting for hours on end, it doesn't matter what the weight is, I'll grab it and it's my bow arm, my arm that gives me a problem, not my draw arm. But what'll happen to me is if I don't do that, I'll leave it. If I sit there for 4 hours in a tree without grabbing that bow, when I do grab it to go to shoot a judo or something, I'll draw and this bow arm will come back like this. See, all this will come in. It'll come in or it'll roll in, but it becomes an issue in here for me. I can't get that full extension like I want. What'll happen is it'll do this and it becomes an issue. Does that mean I need to drop down in bow weight? No, it just means that I need to pay attention when I'm hunting in cold weather, when it gets into those teen temperatures and stuff like that. When I was in Michigan, when it's cold outside, even here on a 30-degree morning with the humidity and that bitter bone chillingness, I need to give myself to remember to take that bow down and stretch those muscles every once in a while. It's more of an age thing than it is a muscle thing or a strength thing. You have to find your happy medium. Okay, shoot the bow weight that works best for you. If you want more, okay, find out what that level is. If you don't be afraid to shoot. Buy a bow in 40, 45 pounds. My advice for somebody who's new to this and wants to get one coming from a compound, buy a 45 or 47 pound bow. It's got 45 to 50 pounds. You're going to be able to shoot it well. You're going to develop the muscles for it quickly. They are different muscles. Compound muscles are here Traditional bow hunting muscles are here. Okay, compound is here. You break a compound right here, like that. It's very easy. That's all right here. Traditional bow hunting muscles are in the back. They're right here. You feel them back there. You will have to develop those muscles. But once you do, 45 to 50 pound bow, cakewalk easy. Nothing to it for anybody. Like I said, my wife shoots a 48 pound bow. My daughter shoots a 45 pound bow. It's not going to be an issue for you whatsoever. So I think that's a good number. But the beauty of lower weight, you're going to be able to shoot it a whole lot more. You're going to be able to practice a lot more. There's a lot of benefit to it. There is no right or wrong to this. But when it comes to passing an arrow through an animal, it's not the bow that does it. It's the arrow. Thanks for watching.